Video. So I'm gonna do this video. I read a article on Yahoo that the Simpsons are going to replace Hank Azaria, um, his voicing of Apu, the Native American character, with an ethnically Indian American or Indian American voice actor. And I applaud the Simpsons for doing that. I applaud Hank Azaria for for doing that because I think he stated that he wouldn't like it if there was an Indian portraying a Jew character, which doesn't exist. Like here's the thing. I went down the comments on the Yahoo comments section on that article, and a lot of people like saying like enough of this. Let's stop nitpicking about what race portrays who, etc., etc. Okay, so here's the main issue of it. All right. Here's the main issue of it. Apparently, it's Hollywood, the media, regarding this kind of situation, they seem to have this. It's okay for us to portray you. It's not okay for you to portray us attitude. It's kind of like what. It's kind of like what how the Italian American actors like Al Pacino portrayed Latino American characters, but when it's the other way around, where they have a Latino American character portray an Italian American, I believe Spike Lee did it in one of his movies, Summer of Sam. There was a lot of uproar from the Italian community saying that they do not want you know a Latino American portraying an Italian American, which is like this is one of the situations where it's like, are you better than me? Why is it that you have no problems with constantly portraying other characters a lot of times in a racist manner, but you won't hire ethnically minority characters to portray white people, Jewish people, Italian people, etc., etc. All right, it would be a whole different matter if you saw the an equal percentage of minority ethnic characters portray white characters and vice versa. But you don't see that. Like 99% of the time, I'm pretty sure it's always been white people or at this point sometimes black people portraying other non-white or black peoples, while they have no issues with constantly making excuses for them portraying Indians, Chinese, etc., etc., Latino Americans, etc., etc. I mean, why do that to begin with? There's right off the bat, there's a huge amount of hypocrisy that exists in the industry because of that. Okay. Second of all, having ethnic, having the right ethnicity portray, Apu, or similar characters in these cases would increase the amount of, diversity in Hollywood, which needs to exist. Diversity does not mean black people. Diversity does not mean African Americans. Diversity does not just mean Jewish Americans. Diversity does not mean, people who identify as Irish American and Italian. It does not mean, it means the whole entire spectrum of Americans. It means, Indian Americans, it means Arab Americans, it means Asian Americans, it means Latino Americans. It means Americans from every single background who pay their taxes, who have children, who need a sense of, who need heroes, who need people who they could look up to, etc., etc. The same reason why the blacks and Jews have the NAACP and the ADL, who consistently fight for the positive portrayal of their own groups. Other groups other races in this country deserve it too, and they deserve it for a while. All right. I've always said, you watch my other videos, what they did to Asian Americans, Chinese Americans in this country, that should have been, over the last 20-25 years, should have been, have been characterized as a hate crime, a terroristic hate crime. It was beyond wrong, and I hope Hollywood pays dearly for that. It's just an absolute hate crime, the way they portrayed Asian Americans over the last 20 years. Okay, so here's, and the other thing is, the other part is, I hope they have a strong inclusion of Asian Americans on the show, or and Latino Americans on the show, and Arab Americans on the show, who are Americans, who aren't stereotypically foreign. That's the problem. That's one of the problems with the character of Apu is, Indian Americans have been here for a while. Asian Americans have been here for 200 years. Latino Americans have been here. If you think of them as part of the Native American community, they've been here for 15,000 years, and every single one of these groups are stereotyped as foreign, as non-Americans. Apu has a thick accent. That family has a thick accent. The characters of the family has a thick accent. None of them have an American accent. Right? The only people who have American accents on this show, on Family Guy, are either white or they're black. Okay, this is not Europe. This is not Europe. It's not Africa. There's no reason why the only characters on these shows who are portrayed as Americans are either white or black. All right, Hollywood should have stopped doing that 25 years ago. Instead of putting a stop to that, what they did was they increased the amount of stereotypical portrayals of non-black minorities, which is extremely wrong. All right. The other point is, stereotypes destroy the dignity of the people that they stereotype. All right, they absolutely do. Entertainment is not just entertainment. Entertainment is conditioning. A large part of any amount of entertainment is conditioning. It's brainwashing. It's conditioning people to see how they are, and conditioning other people to see how other people are. Okay, if that is a fact, and that is an absolute fact about the media, okay, it's an absolute fact, then every time you have these stereotypes up, where every time you foreignize, minorities, as far as Asian Americans, Latino Americans, Indian Americans, Arab Americans, etc., you're actually doing harm to their community. All right, you are absolutely promoting stereotypical social behavior by making them out to be lesser than Americans. All right, you are creating a hierarchy of Americanism that should never exist. Everybody pays the taxes. You have all kinds of people serving in the U.S. military. You have all kinds of people contributing to the country. It is not just white and black, and they needed to have stopped this 25 years ago. All right, you guys committed hate crimes by consistently stereotyping certain groups the way you do. You don't do this with African Americans. You don't consistently have them be portrayed as Africans with an accent. You don't consistently have these, white people being portrayed as European with an accent. You make distinctions between European Americans, which are white Americans, and Europeans. You make distinctions between African Americans and Africans. If you make that distinction, why would you not make that distinction with every other American group in this country? Why would you not do that? And the next point I would like to make is, Asian Americans should have spoken about this 25 years ago. They should have set up civil rights organizations. They should have, had civil rights leaders. They should have created a race card of their own to protect themselves against this indignity. And there is an indignity that comes with this. All right, if you guys aren't any of these groups, you guys would not know about the amount of social indignity that comes with this, and it exists as a thing. And we know it exists as a thing because every single group these days, are fighting. Every time there's anything negative up, particularly black people, anytime there's anything negative that's being portrayed as, they're the first people who go out of the way to tell them, no, you can't do this, etc., etc. It's a civil rights infringement, it's racist, etc., etc. They're the original social justice warriors. How come you guys aren't going out of your way to tell them that, stop, constantly, creating an atmosphere where you're sensitive to this and that? Why aren't you guys calling them out as the original social justice warriors, them and the Jews? All right. Also, I would like to say that this problem is not just a problem with The Simpsons. It's a problem with The Family Guy. It's a problem with South Park. It's a problem with, up until maybe like a couple years ago, it's a problem with Hollywood in general. It's only been the last couple years, 2 or 3 years, where social media has pretty much taken a hold of the American public, that this, there's less of this happening as far as portrayals of Asian Americans in an undignified way, as far as portrayals of Latino Americans, Arab Americans in an undignified way. It's only been the last couple of years where, people are now speaking out against this because they now have a voice. Everybody else has a voice, all right? It's not just a white-black thing where they control, certain parts in the media and then they just throw out the racist garbage. All right, I could go on and on and on and on with the racism that exists in Hollywood over the last 20 years, with the racialization of Hollywood and the media that has gone on over the last 20, 25 years. All right, it wasn't even this racist during the 1980s and the early 1990s. It's only been since, I would say, since hip hop took over, since Mad TV was created, since the whole, maybe the last 20 years, that this has taken a hold, and it's absolutely wrong. Hollywood has racialized to a white and black paradigm over the last 20 years, and it's only been the last couple of years where social media has pretty much put a stop to that. And they should have put a stop to that a while ago, because the amount of damage that they did, particularly to certain groups like Asian Americans, have been, they pretty much set Asian Americans back for like 60 years. Stereotypes that should never have existed, would never have existed in the 80s, it permeated through the last 2 decades, which is absolutely wrong. All right? The other point I'm trying to make is they should give every single American a chance. They should give the same amount to every single group of Asian Americans that exist in this country, the respect that they deserve, okay? Black people are not the only minorities in this country, all right? You guys making it right as far as portraying black people with respect and dignity, while just constantly bashing the hell out of other groups, is just wrong. And that's what they've done over the last 20 years. They've transferred racism from blacks to particularly Asian Americans, to Latino Americans, to Indian Americans, to every single other group. All right, these people seem to have barriers. They have barriers. They have boundaries when it comes to. They know where the boundaries are when it comes to portraying or making jokes about blacks and Jews, but everybody else they don't care about. So they go and do their racist thing because they know that they're not going to get as much flack as they do. And it's not just flack, it's getting canceled. All right, and this is why I'm all for the whole social justice warrior movement of every single group that comes out speaking against any kind of negative portrayals of them. I'm for women's rights groups. I'm for Asian Americans rights groups. I'm for Latino American rights groups. I'm for illegal Americans rights groups. I'm for gays, LGBT, trans, fat people. Whatever your subgroup is, snowflakes, whatever your subgroup is, I'm for all you guys. All right, I'm for the whole social justice warrior movement, because this whole entire dignity thing, it should not be a selective thing where they give respect and portray certain groups correctly, while they go and bash the crap out of other groups. This is the main situation with the whole social justice warrior movement. It's they should expand that and say this is the whole social justice warrior movement for everybody, for every single group that got bashed over the last 20 years, for every single group that didn't have a voice over the last 20 years, that for every single group that they transferred racism to over the last 20 years, from black people, from Jews who transferred their racism to Asian Americans, Latino Americans, not Jewish Americans, because they have the ADL. Jewish Americans been some of the most racist people, as far as portrayals, they have been pretty racist towards other groups, the Jewish Americans, as far as the ones in the media. I can say that about blacks too. All right, these people care about their own image. They don't care about anybody else's image. There's a problem with that when the racism that existed, when that racism has changed to just being selective about your hate towards certain groups versus a black and white thing. It's now certain groups just selecting who they will hate or who they won't hate. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. It should have stopped a long time ago. Somebody should have said something a long time ago, instead of having it just, become manifested what it's become over the last 20 years, where it becomes like a normal part of the social interactions of people, where these comedians like that Blaine guy who got kicked off that Saturday Night Live cast, goes and does his racism on Asian Americans, but and other minorities, but he'll find a way to soften up, his jokes with Jews. Well, he didn't soften up his jokes with Jews, but he did soften up his jokes with blacks. I mean, I don't think he went, did the whole racial thing with blacks, negative racism, because he has boundaries. He says, that guy says he was pushing boundaries. He wasn't pushing boundaries. He knew where the boundaries were. But I'm getting offhand here. All right. So as far as this is concerned, I am hoping that this whole entire situation with them switching up, who voices up who and stuff to an ethnic person, I'm almost positive the ethnic person is just going to be an American. All right, they're going to change it up to an Indian American, which is a good thing. It's a good thing for Hollywood. It's a good thing for diversity. It's a good thing for inclusion of other Americans in Hollywood, because after all, Hollywood is nothing more than a brainwashing machine as far as conditioning people to to interact a certain way with other people. It's just one big brainwashing machine. All right, that's what it is. It makes money. It has a product, but that product has another feature to it, and it's a very important feature. It brainwashes people into social norms. All right. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Definitely would like to hear your opinions of it. All right, guys, take care.